no, your ass better call somebody.
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park fans dripped in jerseys. Legacy bold, the Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets Pregame Show right here on our channels and on X. As our New York Mets had the day off yesterday, but they took care of their homestand, 5-1. Lost the last game of the series against the Marlins, but have a very, very good homestand of 5-1. And now they're in Sacramento. They're going to be facing the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas Athletics. And we're going to get started by talking all about the game today and the pitching matchup, the lineups, and all that fun stuff. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, interesting things to talk about here. Really interesting things to talk about. A lineup as well. You know, some changes there. Did the off-day stream yesterday with my buddy Zach from Sunny Days Media. I know that you're not available for the post game tonight, Rob, but we got you all covered after the game. It's going to be a late one, so grab your coffee. I think Zach's going to be joining me once more for the post game as a little bit of a fill-in. So yeah, it should be interesting. I have full confidence in this team. 8-4 is a decent start to the season, but I think over the next 10 games, you know, the upcoming schedule, a lot of things to look forward to. So let's talk some Mets baseball. Let's do it.
Yeah, at the Athletics, you know, they're not a very good team, but they got a couple of good young players that, you know, you do got to worry about. They can hit the ball. That is for sure. That ballpark in Sacramento is the AAA team of the San Francisco Giants, and it's a park that the ball flies out. I think the last game they played, the Athletics, was the only low-scoring game of their season at home. So the ball flies out of there. It's going to be it's warmer obviously than New York, but it's cooler because it is Northern California. It's not that hot. It's cooler, warmer, but you know, a little bit more cooler in that area. But we'll see how the ball travels at night there, and we will see. Look, the Mets offense can't have a 10-run game, can't have a 0-run game. It can't be so inconsistent. They got to be better, and that starts with Juan Soto. It starts with Brandon Nimmo. I do like the fact that Brandon Nimmo is out of the the cleanup spot, and Marte's starting, which is always better for Marte. Marte is better at starting games, regardless of where he plays, which is mostly DH now. He's not a guy that comes off the bench cold. He's just not good at that. He's better as a starter. I like Nimmo out of the 4-hole, and Acuna is playing over Beatty, which makes sense. Not only because Beatty sucks, is because there's a lefty on the mound. So, you know, let's talk about the lineup right away, because we see Luis Torrens is back. We know that the MRI came back clean and he's ready to go. We'll see how he is with that forearm contusion that he had. Jose Siri's playing in center field, which is interesting. So what stands out at you, Chris, with this lineup against the Athletics?
Marte in the 4-hole, the cleanup spot, is kind of a little bit shocking to me. That is what stands out to me. You know, like you said, Marte playing is not a shock whatsoever, but him being in that 4 spot definitely is. Then you got Nimmo in the 5 spot, Vientos in the 6 spot. I like that. Acuna is also starting. I think that he's going to get 2 of the 3 games here in this series as well. And it's good to see Luis Torrens back. I like this lineup a lot. I do have some reservations about, I guess, Marte batting in the cleanup spot, but at this point, it's so early into the season. Oh, and there's the
All
pup.
right, there we go.
There we go, first pup
There we
of the
go.
season.
Yeah.
Here's
There
the
we
new pup. So he,
go.
he's causing trouble. He knocked the light down. So
All right, that's all right.
yeah, eh, I like
Finally,
this
at
lineup
least
a lot.
one.
I think that you're right, exactly. I know with you and Shay, and
Yeah.
now I'm dealing with a similar struggle here. Um, the ballpark definitely is conducive to a lot more runs being scored, hopefully, for the New York Mets. And we'll see. I think Vientos is in a spot where he can really turn it around. He's been having some unlucky stretches in terms of some hard hit baseballs not really going his way, but I think that he is on the brink of breaking out. And I also think that Brandon Nimmo has been squaring up some hard hit baseballs as well, as we talked about in one of our later, last pre-games and whatnot. So I think that the top five, maybe Starling Marte aside, because I just don't know how to just assess him just yet. I think that they're on the cusp of doing some great things. It's just about the bottom of the order in that production. What are we going to get from Acuna? What are we going to get from, Terrence continuously after the contusion to the forearm? Jose Siri. I mean, center field production offensively has been essentially nothing so far. I'm feeling good, though, because with the way that the ball carries in that ballpark, it should be a recipe for a lot of runs. We just got to see it materialize now.
Yeah, I wasn't even shocked with Marte being the cleanup, being in the cleanup spot because again, you would love to have Mark Vientos there, but again, Mark Vientos is not hitting. 6-9 right now. Obviously, minus Terrens, who he hasn't played in a couple of 4 games now. So you hopefully he still has that good bat that he has prior to getting that forearm contusion. 6-9, they got to get it together. Nimmo has had good at bats, which is a good sign, but I still need him out of the 4 hole. I just can't see Nimmo anywhere in the 3 or 4 spot, and obviously 1, 2, and 3 are not changing. Nimmo's just in a bad spot right now, and I think the best spot for Brandon Nimmo right now is the 5 hole. But you know what? If Viento starts hitting, I would have no problem if Marte plays a little bit more or Jesse Winker. I'd rather move Winker or Marte up and move Nimmo to the 6th spot. But that's if Vientos starts hitting, right? Because somebody's got to start hitting. It's either Vientos, Acuna, somebody. Nimmo if he starts picking it up a little bit. But at the same time, 6-9 is like a no-show right now. Center field is basically a no-show. No matter, I mean, we all like Tyrone Taylor, but Tyrone Taylor is, he's definitely can be a starter on some teams, but he's a 4th outfielder, and he does get exposed when he plays too much. So, and Jose Siri is the guy that they want to play every day. That's a fact. They tried that. They really want Jose Siri to take over that center field role, but he also has to hit. Luis Acuna, Chris, somebody's got to step up at second base. You got center field, that's a no-show. You got second base, that's a no-show. That's 2 big gaps in your lineup at the bottom of the order that has to get going. Somebody needs to step up. Can somebody actually show a pulse? Acuna's shown a little bit more than Beatty, with his speed, with his defense. But other than that, they got to combine 5 hits at second base. That's not going to cut it at all. And you know what? If there was 2 position players that were coming, from the injury list, which is very shortly, it could be Alvarez and McNeil. Obviously Hayden Sanger is going to be probably one of the guys that go down because of Alvarez. But both of these guys don't deserve to be up here. I'm hoping somebody steps up. I think we all hope that Acuna is the one because there is more talent there. I'm not sure what's wrong with Beatty because the talent he has is just a quadruple A talent. So what are your thoughts? Obviously we like this lineup. I don't think anybody can complain about the lineup today. I like Nimmo out of the 4 hole. Vientos has been in that 6 spot for a little bit now since he's not really hitting. I just want to see. I need consistent offense because this offense, they're 8-4, but their offense has been very much inconsistent.
Yeah, and I broke it down yesterday in the off day stream. If you missed it, check it out. We went over the different production outputs by position group for the New York Mets, right? I mean, there's been a handful of positions that have been manned by multiple, guys at this point, and then there's some positions that have been manned by just one single guy, right? Like Pete Alonso has always been the first baseman for the first 12 games, whereas the catching position has been, I guess, played by Terrence and Sanger. So there's a little bit of variability there. Terrence is off to a very hot start, 300 batting average, and Hayden Singer kind of brings that down a little bit to like 243. So I broke it down by position group, and I brought up those splits. And like you said, the problem areas are definitely second base, definitely center field and third base as well. Although I do think Mark Vientos is coming out of that slump, and he should have a breakthrough at any moment given the at-bats that he's putting up. The results still haven't been there as he's hitting less than 200. I think he's actually hitting less than 150. And so these are problem areas. And the DH production between Marte and Winker has been okay. I think Marte has an 803 OPS, which is fine. But you take a look at the split there. I mean, there's a lot more production that can be had from the DH spot. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not the most optimal, which is exactly how platoons work at this point, right? Platoons are a very hard thing to figure out. And I think that we're seeing that at its peak at the second base spot. So I'm just curious who is really going to just, be that guy to break out of that offensive slump at second base. I do think that we'll see Luis Angel Acuna clearly tonight as he is penciled in, batting seventh, playing second base. But I also do think that we will see him against a righty, whether it's tomorrow or Sunday. I think that with what Brett Beatty has been doing, Luis Angel Acuna deserves at least 2 of 3 against the A's at this point. And we can't forget that Alvarez and McNeil both played in a rehab game today, in St. Lucie. Actually, it wasn't in St. Lucie, it was an away game, but for St. Lucie. And they're well on their way to being back. So now you're talking about limited time that Brett Beatty and Luis Angel Acuna have to kind of show what they got. And we can go back and assess the decision to have both these guys on the roster. That's fine. We can continuously have that conversation, whether it was a good thing, whether it wasn't a good thing. They made the decision to roster both of these guys, and it's kind of limited both of them at the same time, which I know was your concern to begin the season because not either one of those guys have shined. But as McNeil's returning, I'm curious if either of them catch wind of that and are like, all right, now I just need to put better at bats together, right? They should have been doing that from the start, but maybe this lights a fire underneath them. And with Luis Angel Acuna, I think that if he doesn't expand the zone, I think that he has a little bit of a leg up on Brett Beatty just because of the results of the at bats show me that Brett Beatty isn't expanding the zone. He's really not. He's not swinging at baseballs, and he's also very late on baseballs, which is producing ground balls, right? The reason why he's grounding out so much is because his timing is completely off. Whereas Luis Angel Acuna, I think that the bulk of his problems come from chasing pitches out of the zone, and he puts himself into unfortunate situations. I think the swing with Luis Angel Acuna, it's not a timing issue. It's not a mechanical issue. It's just a pitch selection issue, which is a little bit easier to figure out than your timing being completely off. That's just my humble opinion. But at the end of the day, both these guys have been getting it done. And I'm hoping Luis Angel Acuna can break that streak here tonight with a multi-hit game. See.
Yeah, with Brett Beatty, he gets into pitcher counts, 0-2 counts, and then what do you got to do in 0-2 counts? You got to protect. And when he talked about the last time when the reporter spoke to him, and what do you think the problem is? He says indecision. Well, the indecision is the problem. When you get 0-2, there's not many decisions you can make. You have to protect the plate. And he's going to be jumpy, and that's been the problem. He needs to be working the counts a little bit better, and I don't know what the problem is. Like, it's clearly a mental aspect. It's not talent. The talent's there. It's just the mental aptitude of Brett Beatty that's just not working at the big league level, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. You don't perform, you're going down. With Luis Angel Acuna, this has been the problem since the Mets acquired him. Like, even last year in the minor leagues, we all know why he got called up was because he was the last one standing when Lindor got hurt. Jet Williams was kind of injury prone. He wasn't doing well when he came back, and Ronnie Mauricio was already out the entire year. So Luis Acuna was the only one really available to play second and short when Lindor got hurt. So that was his problem at the minor league level. It's not like he was raking in the minor league level. He's not a guy that takes really takes a lot of walks. He's going to swing the bat, which is not the worst thing in the world. Like, I'd rather him swing the bat, but at times you got to be more selective. And it seems like he doesn't also like understand what he's doing at the plate. I mean, he's still very young, so you're not going to throw him to the wolves right now. But you're trying to win ball games, and when the bottom of the order is needs to be better, you're expecting a guy like Luis Acuna to help it along. I'm not going to say carry it on his shoulders because that's not fair to the kid, but at least show some life. And you can't expect Luis Torrens and Jose Siri to do this because we know what these guys are. They're role players. Luis Acuna is a top prospect. He's supposed to be, at least according to Met fans, should be a star. And he should be better. I'm not saying your brother, but he should be very good. And it doesn't seem like he's adjusting as well, which is the issue at the plate. And again, if we would choose today who would be on this team if McNeil came back tomorrow, we all choose Luis Acuna. It kind of makes sense on just matchup wise because you will have a righty backup, you'll have the speed, and then you have the lefty and Jeff McNeil that will obviously get the starting job at second base. But I still don't believe that Acuna is going to be up here. When McNeil comes back, I still feel that way, and I don't know why I feel that way, but all signs have been pointing to that. Unless Acuna starts to hit, I don't see Acuna staying up there because he's still young enough to get better and get the at bats that I still think he needs because this platoon doesn't work for young players. It really does not. And Beatty's been around a couple of years now, but he's still a young player, and it just doesn't work for these guys. When they played all their lives, playing every single day, and now they say, hey, play twice a week, play 3 times a week. It's hard to do that. It's not easy. So hopefully Acuna steps up. I really do hope he does.
Well, bottom line is that what the Mets have been able to get it done for more often than not, being 8-4 with just abysmal production at multiple positions offensively, and that's just a testament to how great the pitching has been. So, if you can imagine when the Mets offense starts clicking on all cylinders, how dangerous this team is really going to be. And you just hope that the pitching is able to, continue the pace at which they're at, or even a fraction of that, because they're still leading collectively between the bullpen and the rotation. Even after the 5-0 loss in the series finale against the Marlins, they're still the best collective pitching staff in Major League Baseball with a 2.10 ERA. And that's saying a lot, to be honest, with the early successes that they've had. So I agree. Hopefully the warmer weather out in California. I'm not really sure how warm it's going to be out there. I didn't look at the radar. I didn't look at, what radar. I don't know if it's going to be rain or not. Probably no rain if I had to guess over there. But, I didn't look at the temperature. I don't know how cold it is. I don't know how warm it is. I have no idea but it can't get worse than 40-degree weather in New York. You know what I mean? So especially the conditions, the light drizzles on and off. I mean, it's just, as an offensive player, as well as anybody, Rob, as do I, is like, that's the worst condition to be hitting a baseball in. It really is. And so, outside of the actual mechanical tweaks and the timing adjustments that need to be made by guys like, Brett Beatty and whoever else is struggling, the environmental factors also don't help them. And I know that's a pretty large excuse, especially for a professional baseball player, but it does matter at some point, right? And we also see that from the pitching side of things with command and not being able to grip the baseball at your best with colder weather. It affects everything. But this is what MLB has decided. April is still meaningful games. You got to go out there and do it. And so far, given the environment, the Mets have done a pretty decent job in terms of staying afloat. And we knew this was going to happen too, Rob. Like, we knew that the bullpen was going to have to hold it down more often than not in the first couple of months of the season. I said it, you said it, everybody really said it. Regardless of what the rotation has done, I think that the rotation has looked a little bit better um, than what was really advertised in the discussions that we were having. Although the longevity needs to be better in terms of getting deeper into ball games, I think that what we've seen and the output has been okay. But it's no denying that the Mets wouldn't be 8-4 without the bullpen and their production. And when you have a bullpen of their caliber on paper, right, with the names on paper that they have, of course you're going to expect that type of output because that's their peak. That's what they can provide. And so once the offense gets going, gives the starting rotation a little bit more cushion, especially hopefully early on in the ball game, I think we're in for a decent stretch of games, even with Mania still being out, even with Montas still being out, because let's not forget, Tyler McGill, for the most part,
Big
is
deal.
having a pretty good couple starts, right? I know he was inefficient last outing, but the 2 starts before that were great. Griffin Canning also has been better than advertised, I should say, especially when we first signed him, in this offseason, and he looked like just a stud in spring training. And this is also given that Clay Holmes hasn't had his best stuff for the first 3 starts of his season so far. So I think that everything taken into consideration, the Mets are in a good spot in order to keep building, right? There's a clear path upward in every facet of the game for the New York Mets. And that's really what this game of baseball is about: adjustments and building off of the early months, because this team is not going to look the same in June as they do in April. And we're hoping that they look better given the
Yeah.
reinforcements that are coming back in the later months with the weather heating up. So, uh, I think right now, and we'll reassess this after this game and the post game when we go live later tonight. Grab your coffee again. Like I said, we will be live. Come through and talk about this game with us. I think I feel good about this team going into this A's series. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, this is this should be a series victory, right? This is not no hyperbole. This is no jinxing anything. The Mets are better. You don't take 2 out of 3. It's a disappointment. It's a bad disappointment. Again, you got an easy schedule in the month of April. You're facing the Athletics, Minnesota, and St. Louis the next 10 games or so. Like that should be a well over 500 record in those 10 games against those teams. And that St. Louis series is at home, so you're facing teams that you're better than. And I do want to again, the bullpen. It's been the bullpen and Pete Alonso that's been carrying this team through the first 12 games of the season. And a couple of guys here and there that have done some job, but it's mostly been Pete Alonso and the bullpen. At some point, Pete Alonso is going to have a little bit of a low. I mean, if he stays red hot, I mean, you're talking about MVP for Pete Alonso. But at some point, the bullpen will give up a couple of runs, and they're not going to, save the starters every single time when they have to come in the 5th inning every single time, which is an issue that I think is going to hurt this team if the starters don't get a little bit more length. Again, while they're in the game, they are good. But when you come out in the 4th inning or 4 2/3, it's not beneficial to your bullpen at all. Yeah, the starters will keep you in the game, and that's what you asked for. But you got to give me 5 innings at least with a lot of these guys. I think this is a big problem, Chris. It's not hurting us now, but when you use more of the bullpen over and over again, and there's no off days anymore, that's it. You got like 13 straight games in a row of no off days.
I really do think that the pitch count limitations that Carlos Mendoza has clearly imposed on this rotation is also a very big aspect in this. I mean, you take a look at Kodai Senga being limited to 77 pitches, a piece in his first 2 starts. You take a look at Tyler McGill being the only pitcher that has been getting up to that 90 pitch threshold. The average starter in the entire league right now is going, 5.25 innings, right? I just looked it up and what it was. And that's down from 2014, which was just under 6 innings at 5.97. So clearly these starters over the past a little over a decade are going less and less and less, which means that the bullpen is all that much more important. So I don't think that's just a Mets issue, though. I think that's an issue that a lot of teams in this league, outside of ones that have a clear frontline starter, I know Garrett Cole hasn't been pitching, but he's one. I mean, Framber Valdez, you saw on opening day, is also another one. A lot of teams are dealing with this, but I also don't think that you can really assess that given the first couple of times in the rotation when they're only being limited to 85 to 89 pitches, because that's 13 to 14 pitches less than an actual start that they would be going under, let's say in the month of May or June. So that would get them to 5+ innings right then and there. That's how I see it.
Sure, but again, if you go through the first 12 games, other than Kodai Senga, who has been taken out because of the pitch limit very quickly, every one of those games, if you go look at it, they've had trouble in the fourth inning or trying to get through a fifth inning, and they've been taken out of games because they got into trouble. And it didn't help that their pitch count was at the point where it's like, all right, you could keep them in and see if they fight through it, but that might be when Mendoza takes him out, because I still don't think he trusts most of these guys, to be quite honest with you. He doesn't trust McGill. We all know that. As much as McGill has pitched fine, as soon as he gets into trouble, they take him out regardless of his pitch count. And that went for Griffin Cannon. That has been going on with Clay Holmes until his last start. They haven't wasted time to take him out when they got into trouble. And yeah, the early part of the season could definitely have a role in that, but it's not like they were pitching, fine, and they were getting through the lineup like nothing, and he was taking them out at 82 pitches. They've been getting into trouble. Like, there's one or two starts where you can say, all right, maybe one start each. Besides Kodai Senga, I think that's the only one that has a pitch count, to be quite honest with you, that has like a firm pitch count in Kodai Senga, because didn't they take him out at 77 pitches last game for Kodai Senga?
But I mean, but there's also no reason as to why Mendoza is grouping this entire rotation outside of Kodai Senga into a similar pitch count. They're not getting up to 100 pitches, which is what they'll be at in the next month's time, right?
Oh yeah,
We would have to assume.
But you know what? If he didn't trust his bullpen, you think he'd be taking out starters early?
But that's the luxury that he has at this point, though.
100%. But that's what I'm saying, though.
Right.
Like, is it that he don't trust the starters, or he doesn't trust the starters? And all right, I got a good bullpen, a really good bullpen. So why not just go to the well every single time? Because eventually it's gonna burn him. We all said that, right? The luxury that he has a lot of guys, unlike last year, that can go multiple innings. And I think that's huge to have, which many bullpens don't have. Like, we have about 4 guys that can go multiple innings, and I think that helps. But again, this is the first stretch of games. I think it's like 13 games in a row with no off days. This is going to be a test, because if these starters go 5 innings or less, we are going to see the bullpen use a hell of a lot. And remember, we had 3 off days in the first 2 weeks of the season. No off days for almost 2 weeks straight. So it's going to be a test, and I want to see how Mendoza is going to play it.
The conversation about facing a lineup the third time through, and how managers get very squirrely when that happens, it's not only a Mets issue. And that's when we're talking about that, I guess, 4 2/3 innings, 5 innings, around that range is exactly what we're talking about, where managers around the league are faced with the choice: let the starting pitcher go the third time through the order, or pull the plug. And I just don't think that it's a Mets issue. I know that the Mets have had a handful of starts. Tyler McGill, as of the last game, Griffin Canning in his last start was only able to go 4 innings. I understand that. I just think that this is the way that baseball in general has been shaping up, right, over the past couple of years. And I guess, what is the ask, really? Like, what is, if we had to define what the ask is, what is it? Because I don't think asking for 6 innings is realistic. There's not many pitchers in this league that are outside of a number one, like a clear ace, like Valdez, Garrett Cole, etc. You're talking about maybe like a Chris Sale or Garrett Crochet. There's not many starters in this league that are continuously going 6 innings. So are we asking for 5 innings? Are we asking for 5 1/3 or 5 2/3? What are we asking for? Or 5 minimum?
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, if you go back to last year with Griffin Cannon, and you could see how he pitched, he was easily getting to 5 2/3 to 6 innings. I mean, it wasn't good starts. Like, I mean, are we expecting 4 2/3 of no runs and enjoy that? Like I like same thing with Tyler McGill. We know Tyler McGill pitches well in early part of the year and late part of the year. It's the other 3.5 months, almost 4 months in between where he struggles. So when he can't get out of the third inning and all that, and then the same thing. Look, I'm looking at JP Sears right now. His first two starts, 6 1/3, 6 2/3. These are young pitchers. These aren't guys that are 32 years old that are journeymen that they don't care. Like that's the thing. I don't think Mendoza trusts these guys in this rotation. I don't care what he says publicly. Like he can lie to us all he wants. I'm sorry. Tyler McGill is a fringe rotation guy. Griffin Cannon's in this rotation because you gave him almost $5 million because he's in the rotation. No other reason why. He didn't pitch well last year. It's just a hunch that Stearns has, which he's great at. But again, you got David Peterson, who's the only guy to get through the sixth inning. And that's a guy that probably Mendoza trusts most out of everybody. And Kodai Senga, you still got, a diaper on because you have to baby him through a start. So I think it's the trust factor. I don't think even if he didn't trust his bullpen, I don't think he would give the luxury of these guys staying in a ball game because each game that they pitched, either the fourth inning or the fifth inning, they got themselves into trouble, and he had no issue taking them out. And maybe it's early in the season, maybe because it's a good bullpen. But I just hope that at some point somebody provides that trust for Mendoza to be like, hey, I can get through this. And hopefully it starts with Griffin Cannon today. By the way, it's 78 degrees in Sacramento with no rain, a little bit of wind. So it's a nice day. So it's not like it's cold and rainy. And the Mets have had that unfortunate situation at their homestand of terrible weather. But, we'll see. We'll definitely see.
All in all, given the way that both you and I had back and forth about this rotation, are you like yes or no? Are you satisfied with the way that the rotation has performed through the first 12 games?
I don't think they won us anything. I think they got us to as far as they could and kept us in the ball game, which again is fine. But keeping you in the ball game in the fourth inning doesn't do anything for me. I'm sorry, it really doesn't. Everybody can talk about the 2.36 ERA of McGill and the 2.9 ERA of Griffin Cannon. Everybody has basically under 3.5 ERA except for I think Clay Holmes. But look at the innings. Half of them don't even have 10 innings on their belt, and they're going into their third start. I'm sorry. Like, I the bullpen and again, 12 games, the lineup has scored twice 10 runs, which blew the game out of the water. So the offense took care of that. The bullpen has won these games. Like, we're giving these starters credit for what? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the rotation hasn't been bad. I'm not going to use that word. That's not fair. But again, we'll see when the bullpen starts to fall apart. And yeah, Ken, don't give me that 2.36 ERA nonsense. All right, when you throw 8 2/3 innings and you're gonna give me a 2.36 ERA, I don't care about that. I'm sorry. And even Chris, who likes the rotation more than I do, even said that the ERA can be a little bit flawed. It is.
Yeah,
It
it
really,
definitely can be for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying they're bad, but too many Met fans, and I'm not including you in this, Chris, because you talk about the flaws. Too many Mets fans are acting like this starting rotation is like going 6 innings, 5 2/3, 5 and just throwing zeros up and giving the bullpen, into the sixth inning, and you only got to use 2 or 3 bullpen arms. Almost every game we used either 4 or 6 bullpen arms per game. There was 3 games out of 12 that we haven't used more than four more guys. That's not sustainable. As much as everybody thinks it is, it's not, because you're going to burn them out. And again, a 2-week stretch starting today of no days off. Let me see how many times these guys go 4 innings and barely get out of the fifth inning, or can't get out of the fifth inning, and got to use 4 or 5, 6 bullpen arms. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and we'll definitely see. I think Griffin Canning's in line for a good start today. Although I will say, as it relates to this actual matchup and a little bit of a preview between the A's and the Mets, and shout out to the Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports podcast here, Darren, who is an A's fan. I know it hurt his soul a little bit that they're moving on from, the Oakland days and onto other things, but, I guess still an A's fan, and so that's always a good matchup. But,
Yeah.
their offense really hasn't gotten going in terms of looking at the A's. I think that they're kind of a sneaky team. I know they're 5-8, and I know that they've been a laughing stock of the league, but I think that at any point, really, especially if we're talking about Mets pitching, that this A's lineup can get going at any point. They haven't so far. And so I kind of view them as a little bit of a better Marlins team where you're going to get a fight of a series. We saw it last year, right? Last year, the A's came into City Field and were just hitting moonshots off the Mets. I mean, the offense was Brent Rooker was just tattooing baseballs. I forgot what other guy was just absolutely killing them too. But I don't think this is my hot take. Mets are 8-4. They're the clear better team
Oh yeah.
over the A's, but this series should not be taken lightly from the New York Mets. That's maybe not even a hot take because I do think that this A's team is a lot better than the record shows so far and that people give them credit for. So it's not going to be an easy series. I think Griffin Ken is going to have his work cut out for him, and I hope that he's up to the task. But you know what? Griffin Canning, as we're talking about pitching in general, it's a clear game plan with him. He's going to be throwing off speed more often than not.
Mhm.
He's going to be prioritizing the slider. He's going to be prioritizing the changeup, and he's going to supplement these at bats with a sneaky four-seam fastball, 91 to 92 miles per hour. And then on the counterpart of things, right, with the Mets offense, JP Sears falls in line exactly with the type of pitchers that they've been facing so far early this
Yeah.
season. He is a soft tosser. His fastball is 92 miles per hour, really averaging at that point. And he throws off speed 87, 88 miles per hour, and that's what you're going to get. And so it's a little bit of an adjustment when you go from seeing a guy like Max Meyer, who can throw his fastball, even though he likes his slider a lot, and that's his predominant pitch. He does like his fastball as well. He throws it for 95, 96 miles per hour. And that just simply is not what the Mets have been used to so far this season, seeing like guys that are throwing 91, 92 tops. You know what I mean? So it's an adjustment, and that's for sure. And that's also something that can be said for how tricky it has been to navigate these at bats for this lineup. So I'm very curious as to what the approach is for this Mets lineup. But I'm even more curious in terms of the actual pitch distribution from Griffin Canning and how that's going to hold up, right? Because opposing teams are going to get the message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That last year he was clearly a fastball predominant pitcher, and he's changing up that tune to be more slider dominant. Okay, so other hitters, opposing lineups are going to be sitting on the slider. Can they adjust to it? Is it going to be sharp, or is he going to leave it over the heart of the plate and make mistakes? And that's maybe when he's going to pay. Like, what version of Griffin Canning are we going to get? Because when Manaea comes back, when Montas comes back, the Mets have a decision to make.
Yeah.
Even if they're going to a six-man rotation, are you getting rid of Tyler McGill in this rotation? Which I think his early numbers, whether you agree with it or not, have bought him some more time. I've bought him some more time. I think the only other guy that's a candidate to get out of this rotation is probably Griffin Canning, who we were having questions about if he was going to be in this rotation to begin with. I'm very curious. The Mets are going to have a lot of pitching roster pitching decisions. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Rob, as well, right? Like when Montas and Manaea come back, first of all, you have 13 pitching spots on this roster to work with.
Yeah.
You're going to designate 5 or 6 of them, depending if you're going with a 5-man or 6-man rotation, to starters, right? Then you'll either have 7 or 8 guys designated in the bullpen. We're not even talking about a guy like Paul Blackburn, who could be coming back at some point. We're not even talking about Daniel Nunez, who can be coming back at some point. There's going to have to be corresponding moves. And if you bring back Montas and Manaea, you have to, at least if you go with the 6-man rotation, designate one starter to either go to AAA or go to the bullpen. And if they go to the bullpen, like a guy like Griffin Canning, right, then who in the bullpen is going down, right? Alongside the other corresponding move for Daniel Nunez. So you're talking about multiple guys that you're going to have to make decisions on between the bullpen and the rotation. And that's kind of where I'm curious because it seems like it's a logjam right now.
Well, here's the issue: when Nunez comes back, and he's probably going to come, he's going to come back before Manaea and Montas, most likely. So, and we all think that Danny Young's probably the one going to get the short end of the stick. So you don't really have an option to move somebody from the bullpen to add an extra, bringing both of those guys back. I Ken probably don't want to hear this because he has a shrine for McGill in his room. McGill is he's not going to the bullpen because you won't get to have no spots for him. Who are you taking out of the bullpen when Nunez comes back and Danny Young goes to the minors?
I will say you could take Brazaban because he has two options, although that wouldn't be the box of the play with how good he's been.
When he's pitching well, Mendoza has trust him.
Correct.
Pretty much. So you're not going to take one of the guys that he trusts. So I think that's the issue. McGill is going to the minors. I'm sorry to say, but that's probably
an option too. Yep.
Griffin Cannon is getting $4.5 million, got paid $4.5 million to be in this rotation. That was obvious. Griffin Cannon didn't have to pitch good in spring to not get a rotation spot. Because they paid him very early on, Stern saw something in Griffin Cannon, which is okay. That's his strategy. Fine. Griffin Cannon is going to be in this rotation. Tyler McGill, regardless of how he's pitching, is probably going to get the short end of the stick. One, he has an option. Two, there's nowhere in the bullpen for him to go, especially if the bullpen's still pitching well over the next month or so. There's nowhere to put Tyler McGill. And listen, I'd rather have Tyler McGill on the roster and put him as a long man in the bullpen if you have to take him out of the rotation. But that's the problem. Even if you go to a 6-man, you throw Manaea and Montas in there. What are you going to do? And I think that's the issue. Yeah, Ken, you do have a shrine for Tyler McGill because you act like Tyler McGill has been a consistent pitcher when he's never been. He's had early starts, which is about the first month or so of the season where he starts off extremely well. Everybody gets excited about him. And then late May, June, July, and August comes and he pitches like shit. And then the last month, a month and a half of the season, he pitches well. So you can't pitch your first 14 games good, your 14 games well and 14 games bad and expect to be a good pitcher. Like the Mets, McGill wouldn't be in this rotation if there was no injuries. Like that's 100% fact. So again, it's not about McGill and his stuff. His stuff is really good. It's just harnessing that. That's the problem. His consistency is the problem. Yeah, Ken, because you don't understand that consistency with Tyler McGill has never been there. We've been trying to explain that to you for 2 years now, but you don't listen. So I can't help you with that. I mean, watch the games. He's inconsistent in the starts that he had this year. You just don't want to admit it. I don't care about his ERA. I'm sorry. He couldn't get out of the fifth inning, the fourth inning yet the other day. Like, I'm sorry. That's inconsistent. Sorry to say. And I think McGill, because of the option and because he's the only guy that I think that can actually go to the minors because there ain't going to be no room for the bullpen. And that's unfortunate for him. So just pitch well. And I'm sorry, when you don't go 5 innings, last time I checked the baseball rules, you don't get a win. So a quality start is 5 innings. And what do they call it now? 3 runs is a quality start now? 5 innings, 3 runs is a quality start.
I think it's 6 innings. Is it not 6 innings?
No, I think they moved it to 5 innings is a quality start.
Let me look it up.
Yeah,
I'm curious. I knew it was 6 innings before, but let me see what
you might be right. But
no, it says at least 6 innings and allows 3 earned runs or fewer, so it's still 6.
Okay, so the Mets have been going 4 2/3 on average in their rotation, and they've been giving up less than that runs wise, absolutely. But again, like it's not quality. It's not quality starts. I'm sorry. Even 5 innings, I would consider it a quality start because I know baseball now. You can get through the 5th inning, like they throw a parade for you. So these guys got to get through the 5th inning. Like give me 5 1/3, 5 2/3. Get into the 6th. And if you don't have it after the 6th and, you got to get taken out, you give me 5 1/3, 5 2/3, it's fine. I like, why is it so hard for people to understand that 5 innings is not that hard? If you consistently can't get through the fifth inning, you're probably not a major league starter. You're a fringe major league starter at best, and that's when you probably get to the bullpen, right? Failed starters go into the bullpen. Like that has been known for a long time. That's how it goes. So again, it starts with Griffin Cannon today. And again, if these guys, and we're gonna see it, guys, 12 straight, I think it's 13 straight games in a row. So 2 weeks of baseball, no days off. So let me see when you get to the fifth or sixth game during that stretch, and you're constantly getting guys out of the fourth inning, 4 2/3, 5 1/3, and see how long this bullpen is gonna not crack and start giving up runs. As good as they have been, they're not going to be perfect. And we'll see. Again, this is a great test. And listen, I hope these starters wake up, because Griffin Cannon, every start so far, had an inning where he threw between 25 and 30 pitches. That kills your start. Regardless of how many runs you give up, it kills your start. Same thing with Tyler McGill the other day. Clay Holmes done it twice already. David Beasley,
but Griffin Canning also threw 5 2/3. I mean, that's pretty much what we're asking for his first start.
Perfect. Great. Right? But what didn't he do in that start? Right? He had a 20 pitch inning. He had that one, 21, 22 pitch inning. I remember that because I was like, uh-oh, is Mendoza going to take him out? And he eventually did in that inning, but he still pitched well. Like, I think he struck out 6 guys, 7 guys.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. A 20 pitch inning is going to happen.
Absolutely. But again, this is the reason why it's been killing almost every one of these pitchers starts, because they have that 25 to 30 pitch inning, and that it's basically go time. Because again, it's like they use all that energy in that inning, and then when they get to that inning where you're like, all right, just give me this inning, they hardly do it. Now Griffin Cannon did it, and Peterson has done it for the most part.
So efficiency has been a thing even before the season started that I was curious in terms of how it was going to play out for the Mets, especially with guys like McGill and David Peterson, who have struggled with efficiency in their careers. Peterson much less last season, but seeing how that could progress on. Are you okay? Because if anybody knows the way that I've been talking about this rotation, it's been, I'm fine with them going 5 innings, 5 1/3 innings. I don't care. That's fine for me, because I know that the way this rotation is built, we don't have guys that can consistently go into the 6th inning. Like, that's not the way that this rotation was built, which is why this bullpen was built the way that it was as well. And so I understand that, and I'm willing to compromise with that, as long as the starters keep the team in the ball game for the first 5 innings like they're supposed to do. Are we saying, I guess I'm just kind of confused, like, are you saying you need more you need more than just the 5 innings, or what are we really looking for? Like, in this Griffin Canning start, what would constitute a good start where we can come back onto the pregame tomorrow and be like, Griffin Canning, he really had a solid outing. I have no complaints about it. Like, I'm like, how are we defining that?
A solid outing, 6 innings, 2 runs, but I would take 5 innings, 2 or 3 runs. Like, honestly, like, it's not about the quality of their pitching, because they've basically shut down offenses for the most part. But the issue is the length. Like, I'm going to be concerned when we're a week and a half into this schedule of this 2 weeks of no days off, and we're constantly using a bullpen. And when your bullpen as a whole has more innings than your starting pitching in 2 weeks of baseball, just imagine 4 weeks of baseball. It's going to be astronomical. Like, that's not sustainable. I don't care what anybody says. Just look at the numbers. It does it eventually. The good part of your team, which has been the bullpen, is going to start cracking a little bit, right? If they don't, great. Then they found magic. Like, as much as these guys have been pitching well, it's going, because look, you got a Diaz that has been struggling. You just did a video about that. You got AJ Minter, who is basically a 1 inning pitcher, and are they going to go back to back? Because if you go one day with Minter and they're still not going back to back, you're going to lose them for the next game. So out of the 2 weeks, you're going to have them for 4 or 5 games, maybe 6 if you're lucky. If you don't go back to back. So again, you use Kranick for 2 or 3 innings. Let's say today. He's not going to be available until game 3 of this series, right? So if you constantly do that, by the end of the first week, you already used about 10 innings of your bullpen, maybe even more. And that's if they go 5 innings.
Rob,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, you're good.
One, I just kind of I'm digging around the MLB statistics and kind of the splits and everything. In this 2025 season, where do you think the Mets rank in terms of bullpen innings pitched? Because that's everything to do with the usage and what we're kind of talking about right here. Like where do you think the Mets rank in terms of the total innings of the bullpen that has been out there?
Probably the middle of the pack because everybody uses their bullpen.
Yes, they're tied for 13th. So right now the Dodgers are number 1 by and large, 64 innings, and conversely, the Mets are at 47 and 2/3 innings.
It's a
So
lot.
that's a large discrepancy. And by the way, the Mariners, Padres, Pirates, and Brewers are ranking top 5. So that's 2 fantastic teams. The Dodgers and the Padres are off to great starts, both in the top 3. Red Sox are number 9 for just, I guess comparison purposes. Cubs are 8. So it's like, I don't know. It's give or take. It's give or take. That kind of the way that we've been talking about this, I would have think that the Mets rank top 10, but they don't. So I don't
Sure,
know.
but again, looking at the Mets as a whole, right? We don't watch every single game of every game of other teams, right? We watch the Mets every day, right? I can assure you that just go through the right. It's when what if one of the guys on the Boston Red Sox goes 7 innings, right? But the other guy has gone 4 innings the last couple of times, right? So those innings for starters are like okay, understandable, and for the bullpen as well. We also have to look at where did those starters go. Like if their number 1 starter goes 6 innings both times, you're clearly using less bullpen. And oh, by the way, they also the Red Sox had 2 extra inning games in a row. So again, that's an extra 4 innings. So every team has different circumstances of why they have innings as well. The Mets have played 1 extra inning game. So again,
Yeah, there's variability for sure,
oh,
but like I'm just talking about it in general. I don't think that extra innings are making up the difference in, let's say, 17 innings between the Dodgers, who have the most elite rotation that we've been talking about. Like besides Blake Snell hitting the IL, right? They still have the rotation that everybody dreams of, but they're still using their bullpen at a very high clip. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like there has to be a method to the madness there where we're assessing the discrepancy of what we're talking about. I don't know. I don't know. Just food for thought. I just want to throw that out there.
yeah, sure, but we all know that Blake Snell is a 5 inning pitcher. We always knew that. Like, but again, and they also have injuries as well. And we see what they did with the bullpen last year. But again, they again you still need starters to go at least a little bit deeper. I think that's a fact. But again, like
I
you've
won't
talked
argue that.
about,
I won't argue that, but
right, well, that's the issue. I'm not talking about how good they have been in the low amount of pitches that they already pitched. The bullpen has basically saved them for the most part by keeping them in games or keeping the lead or keeping it close where the offense has come back. Like again, if the Mets would be flip the record around, if Mets were 4-8 because they've been losing, yeah, we'll blame the offense, but then people will be complaining about the start. I'm telling you, they would be complaining about the starters the same way they were last year. They were complaining about the starters last year because they weren't going deep. Go back to last year when we were terrible the first month of the season. All we complained about was the starting pitcher not going deep, and it was affecting a bullpen that was already limited, and we were losing. Like that's the difference. We're winning, so nobody cares. As soon as we start losing, and the Mets they're still going 4 2/3, barely 5 innings. And like Ken just said to me, he's like, "Oh, Rob would love 6 innings and 5 runs as a good start." No, it's not. It's a circumstance. You can go 7 innings and give up 8 runs, right? But they don't do that anymore. But if you give me 5 innings of 3 runs, guess what? You're probably in the ball game. 6 innings of 5 runs, yeah, of course, depending on the game, the Mets might have 5 runs as well. So is that a quality start? Yeah, sure, innings wise, but it also saves your bullpen. This is not about effectiveness when it comes to getting guys out. But when you're consistently losing 4 to 5 bullpen guys every single night, it's going to start affecting the team. It will. It will be affecting their consistency and their energy to pitch back-to-back days, or guys that are pitching 3 times in 4 days. Like, that's going to start happening when you have no days off. That's what I'm saying. When you go 6 innings and you give up 5 runs, yeah, it's not pretty, but I guarantee you're probably only going to use 2 or 3 bullpen arms. Obviously, if you go into extra innings, different story. That's the problem. Like, if we were losing, people would talk about the starting pitching more. But because we're winning, nobody's bringing it up. Like, that's the problem. And again, this is going to be the biggest test of the season so far, only 12 games in. 2 weeks of no days off. Let's see how it goes. Again, maybe I will be pleasantly surprised if a lot of these pitchers go 5 innings or more. It's going to help the bullpen. Eventually it will. Because again, I don't care what other teams do, right? We're in the middle of the pack, but each individual team has reasons why they use certain amount of innings pitched for their bullpen, right? Extra innings, most of their rotation doesn't go deep either. Fine. But I forgot who it was in the chat, but they says the strategy is for a pitcher to go 4 to 6 innings. 4 innings is a joke. No GM should have a job if you expect your pitcher to go between 4 and 6 innings. 5 to 6 innings, yeah. I think that's understandable. And the Braves lost again, by the way. So at the end of the day, just give a little bit more length. That's it. It's not like we've played, the best teams in baseball here either. Could we also talk about that? We've played the Marlins twice. Astros, pretty decent team, right? Toronto, I guess you can call them a solid team. They were leading in the AL East, but we're not playing the cream of the crop here, and we're barely getting length. So, we're not really playing a lot of good teams over the next 20 days or so. So let's just get it together now. There should be no reason why they can't go deeper into games. And again, there's going to be a time when Mendoza is not going to have the bullpen that he needs, and a lot of people might be out. They're not available, and he has to go to extra inning with the starter, and let's see if they can do it. Because I haven't seen it from McGill. Griffin kind of did it once. Great. It's only his third start, so I'm not going to go crazy. But we will see. I think I'm bringing up concerns that enough people, and again, I'm getting killed in the chat. I understand that. But it ain't the first time I'm getting killed in the chat. But we were complaining about this last year because we were losing. Because we're winning, people are throwing it under the rug. They're sweeping it under the rug. Most of them, not all. But that's the issue. It's not about being negative. You have to bring up the concerns, right? Nobody has problems bringing up the offensive concerns, right? It has been, people aren't going to, jumping off the roof because they all expect the offense to be good. It was supposed to be one of our best proponents of our team. But we also have to understand that you can talk about the problems and it's not considered negative. It's just throwing out the facts. That's it. Because if we were losing, it would be a problem.
But I do agree with you. I'm not pushing back on really much that you're saying, although I just think that there's multiple avenues of ways to win baseball games.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying that's why there's 3 facets to a team, right? The bullpen, the rotation, and the offense. And I think that, if teams aspire to be like the Dodgers, and if that's the baseline of what we're using here, the Dodgers have been able to win games with their bullpen, and they've shown the willingness to do that. Partly because their offense is just that elite, right? And so hopefully the Mets get up to that standard as well, and that helps them out a lot. So I'm not really sure if that's the baseline for what we're going for here, because the Cubs are a pretty decent team, right? They're off to an 8-3 start, and they have a starting rotation that has pitched the most innings collectively in the early goings of 2025. They are number 1, right? So that's contributed to clearly their early success in 2025. So I don't think that there's, you know, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that you're right. I'm not saying I'm wrong or I'm right, because there's just so many ways to go about winning baseball games. And the way that I assess this is that the bottom line is that if the Mets are winning, I don't care if the rotation is pitching bulk innings or the bullpen is pitching bulk innings. I care about why we're 8-4.
Sure.
And we can have the argument whether it's sustainable or whether it's not sustainable. I don't think anybody's going to argue that the way that the Dodgers are going about things right now with a lot of bullpen innings is not sustainable, right? Because their offense is picking things up. And so that's just like what winning teams do, right? If the rotation is lacking in terms of the total innings pitched, the bullpen's going to figure things out and pick them up, which the Mets bullpen has done so, and the offense will do so as well. And I think that it takes a tandem of both the other two facets of a team to pick up for the one area that it's lacking in. And so far, I think the Mets are fortunate to be 8-5 because the bullpen has done their fair share and the offense really hasn't. And if the offense picks things up, I think the Mets are going to still win baseball games. And I don't think people are going to be talking about the rotation at all, as long as they're giving 5 solid innings, right? Even 4
But
and
that's the
2/3.
point. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's it. Because this isn't sustainable. Like, do you believe this is sustainable? What they've been doing over the last 12 games, if they can continue to do it?
It'll be sustainable if the bullpen keeps this pace and if the offense picks things up. But if the offense doesn't pick things up, then maybe it probably isn't sustainable.
So if we're winning a lot of games 7-6, that's fine. We'll be happy with the win, but those are concerns, right? If the bullpen starts cracking a little bit, right? That's when people are going to start talking about the starting pitching. I'm telling, like, that's what's going to, because the bullpen has been so good, right? It's been I would say covering the little issues that the length of the starters that they have not gone. And I think that's the issue, that's the unsustainable part that I think I'm talking about.
But we knew this bullpen was going to do that coming into the season. I mean, we said it in this season preview, right? That we both did as a stream. Like, we knew that the bullpen was going to have a very large role in the entirety of this season. That's why you pay Edwin Diaz 20 mil per season. That's why you go out there and get a guy like AJ Minter. That's why you have full confidence in a stud of a finding like Reed Garrett, right? That came onto the scene and exploded onto the scene last season, as well as Daniel Nunez. And if you have to go ahead and rely on those guys to win ball games, and even if it's 7-6, like you just said, then so be it. There is always room for improvement in this rotation. I think that's what you're trying to get home about, right? Like let's say in 2026, right? Whatever happens this season, we would hope that this rotation is not going to look like the 2025 rotation come opening day on paper. I think that's what it really boils down to. And for me, I do agree with you in that point, 100%. And I think that was what your main gripe was of this rotation on paper all off season long, when the Mets weren't really going after that solidified number one, right? To help alleviate
That's
some of
why
those
the
bullpen
injuries.
innings.
Correct. This is why Montaz and the Manaea injuries ended up being more of an issue, because we expected Montaz to give you innings and Manaea to be a workhorse, right? That was the two guys that were supposed to protect whoever, the Kodai Sengers of the world, the Griffin Cannons of the world, who are probably going to be limited for pitch count wise for a while, or at least early in the season. And you would think that those type of, the veteran guys will pick up the innings and help the bullpen along a little bit without using them all the time. And obviously plans changed because both of those guys got hurt, and you got to throw in McGill in there, and that's not great, but we'll see. Like that is the issue though. Like this was a concern that I had prior to the season, like you said. So this is not something that I'm just bringing up while the games are happening. This was a concern. Go back to our last couple of off season. Go back to our season preview, right? That's a perfect example, right? I've been saying that. That's why even if it's not the top line starter that we all wanted, and let's make no mistake about it, we all wanted that, right? We all came to the realization that this was going to be the rotation. So at the same time, that's why you got to have a workhorse, at least one in the rotation, because when you have a guy that can actually go 7 innings every 3 starts, that protects your bullpen for the unfortunate times when your rotation goes 4 innings. That's the
So
difference.
one thing for me, I'm curious if Sean Manaea comes back in your mind, and let's say I don't think Tyler McGill is going to get the boot. Although I think maybe it would be, there's a lot of valid reasons as to why he should, given what we're both stating here contractually with the options and some of the inefficiencies, whatever. It doesn't really matter who gets the boot out of the rotation once this rotation is at full strength. But let's say that Manaea comes back and he's exactly as advertised and picks up from what he posted last season, which was a hell of a season, right? Let's say he gives us consistently over 5 innings, let's say 5 2/3, maybe even 6 innings pitched, and you kind of alleviate some of those bullpen innings with adding him and getting, rid of a guy like Tyler McGill, right? With the McGill numbers aside, because they've been great, some inefficiency concerns. Is that enough for you? Is that enough for you where you could be like, okay, that's heading into the right direction? But this is a hypothetical scenario, obviously. This is not like, you know what I
Well,
mean?
well, here's the problem. He's coming back from injury, so they're going to be very careful with him. Like, I don't think
Right. Okay.
you're probably going to see until, like, let's say he does come back middle of May, closer to June. So probably the first month into June into July, you're going to get, probably 5 and hopefully 5 innings. I mean, I don't even think they're going to worry about innings. I think they're going to worry about pitch count. I think it's going to be between 75 and 80 pitches early on for the first couple of starts. So, yeah, that's going to affect more of the bullpen along with the rotation that you hope can pick it up a little bit with length. Because I think Montas, when he comes back, do you think they really care about, torturing that arm? No, probably not. I know we have him for another year, but they're going to throw him out there. They got Montas to replace Severino's innings. That's what they did. Not stuff. Not what he's done on the mound, like being very good. Because I think the big problem was not signing Severino over Montas. I think that's a bigger issue because, again, the Mets had almost 600 innings last year from their starters. You ain't even going to get close to that this year. And I think Montas was going to help this rotation along with the length. Now, he's not going to be great. We all know that. But when you only have to use maybe 2 or 3 bullpen arms when in a Montas start, it protects the bullpen from the other starts when they have to use 4 or 5 guys. Like those inning or two that they're not being used in a series is huge, because you can use them for other games and other situations that starters might not go deep into games or a little bit further. That's what I think is going to be the issue.
Is there, bottom line, really, is there a way, is there any, in the first half of the season, is there any scenario that could play out at full strength where this rotation would get you to be like satisfied with the innings? Do you think that there's any way, like, because now we're talking about like injury with Manaea coming back, which is obviously a valid concern. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe they might keep it safe with him. Same thing with maybe even Montas to protect the longevity. It's just like at this point, if we're concerned with the innings output of the starting rotation, I don't think that the first half of the season will alleviate any of those concerns by your
No.
definition.
And the big reason, again, are we going to blow out this bullpen in the first half of the season? Like, that's the thing. Like, I understand what Mendoza is going to do with Manaea. They might even do it with Montas. Here's the bigger question. Is Kodai Senga going to be up to par and not have a pitch count in June? Like, after 10 starts, can he actually, not, throw 95 pitches? Because if you can't do that, then who's throwing major, amount of pitches, at least? Because again, usually manipulate the pitches for a certain amount of innings. You try to gauge that, but you really can't anymore with the way pitching is now. But like, where are we getting our length from? Like, where is this bullpen going to get saved at any point in the first half? In the second half, when everybody's into the groove, you hope they can extend. But again, are these guys going to get exposed? Like, is Griffin Cannon going to be a totally different pitcher than he was last year? Or is he going to get exposed later in the year? Right? Tyler McGill, who is very well known to have terrible part of the middle of the season when he has a good April and a good August and nothing else in between, that's an issue. David Peterson, we believe he's good. We talked about him. He has stuff like an ace. He can be that good. He's got that demeanor on the mound, but he's thrown the most amount of innings he done in his career last year, coming off of hip surgery. So can he do that again? So the length is, I think, going to be the issue. And that's why I said at the deadline, they're going to need not just a top line starter. They're going to need somebody that can actually give you innings. And maybe they can get somebody that's a very good starter that is a workhorse, that can give you those innings, to give you a little bit of the length. Because it's going to come a time where the first half, the bullpen might be really damn good. Maybe we'll have enough wins under our belt where we can go through a little bit of a stretch where we have problems. But this is why the deadline is going to be so important, because there is no doubt what this team is going to need at the deadline. It's starting pitching. When you talk about that from the beginning of the year, regardless of how these guys pitch, you're going to end up going into the playoffs with the same issues you had last year, which is guys who hasn't pitched a ton of innings, who's might run out of gas, might not be as good as they were in the beginning of the year because they're throwing that many innings. You can't fall into that same category again because you fall into the same problems that you did last year. That's when Stearns is going to have a lot of work to do at this deadline. But again, let's talk about today's game, right? It starts in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
14 minutes. Yeah. Who's counting?
It's all right. I only got to go to work in 37 minutes. It's okay. Who cares?
Listen, I think that for me with this game, if we're assessing this by, not the first half, but like on a game by game basis, I think that this offense, if there was a series where they should be breaking out, it should be this series for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a bandbox. I mean, well, it's not small, but the ball has been jumping. And again, Vientos, Soto, Nimmo has picked it up a little bit, but still Nimmo. Those guys got to get it going, right? You got Soto. There is no excuses for Soto. Like, first series at home, I don't know. You're going to call somebody with maybe felt a little bit of pressure. I don't know. Who knows? But that's not an excuse. You're the highest paid player in baseball. Like, get it done. Do what you need to do. So, listen, they better score some runs. Like, can we have a consistent series where we don't score 10, 0, 5? Like, can we have a consistent, like, 5 or 6 runs a ball game? Like, for a series, could we have an average of, like, 6 runs for the series on average? Like, that would be nice. They haven't had a consistent series where they scored, runs throughout a series. They've been relying on, hopes and dreams for the most part. But let's hope this lineup today, which I like, you like, get it together. JP Sears is a soft tosser. He doesn't throw extremely hard. Like you said, they've been facing a lot of these pitches, so there should be no tricks. And you only got one lefty in the lineup against a left-handed pitcher on the mound. Griffin Cannon, give me 5 innings, 2 runs. I take that. He has the stuff. We see it. But again, we know what he is at the moment from what we've seen so far. It's not bad, but it could be better. Like, what did David Stern see in him? Right? They changed his whole philosophy of pitching where he's throwing sliders a lot more, which has benefited him, but it also had made his pitch count go up, which made him have shorter outing in his last start. That has to change as well. Can he harness that slider a little bit more, Chris? Obviously, you love talking about the pitches that they throw. Griffin Cannon throws a hell of a lot more sliders, but he doesn't throw them from strikes a lot. And I think that gets him into trouble where he has extended innings. He has, his pitch count gets a little bit higher. And that's when Mendoza says, all right, you're done.
I think that can be said for, him and maybe even Kodai Senga.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like we said with the Ghost Fork, right? I mean, it's about locating the off speed that these pitchers are equipped with in a manner where they can just clip the outside corner and just locate efficiently as well. So, I mean, it's April, Rob. It's April 11th. I I think that there's a lot of improvement in both the rotation and offensive side of things for the New York Mets that I think that we might see, and we might be hoping for it at the very minimum. But for right now, going into this A's series, really going into this road trip between the A's and the Twins, I think that series wins are the bare minimum expectation. There should be a
I agree.
sweep in one of these series, right? Like the Twins are not a good team either. These are two teams that the Mets should be handling, especially with where they're kind of ranked in fans' minds, in the baseball media minds, etc. Right? Like the personnel on this team should be handling it, and I'm just happy that we're getting reinforcements back as well with the rehab assignments of Alvarez and McNeil. I know Terens has been doing a fine job. I know that McNeil has had a lot of people, including myself and you as well, sometimes that we've been talking about. We don't know what his status on the Mets is going to be moving forward, but I think that it's the only way to go the only direction to go for second base right now is up, and I think that Jeff McNeil will provide that. So let's take care of business. Game starts in about 9 minutes, and let's do the damn thing. We'll see you all in the post game. I'll see you on the post game, and I think I can't make the post game tomorrow. I know that you will probably have that covered. I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
yeah, I'm doing pre and
Um,
post tomorrow. I'll have no problem doing that.
I'll be on the pregame tomorrow. I can't do the postgame, so we'll switch off the postgame. I got tonight, you got tomorrow, and we'll go about it that way. And hopefully we're talking about 2 wins because we all know spamming the W's is electric in the postgame, or we don't like talking about losses. So let's do the damn thing.
Absolutely. There you go, guys. So enjoy the game in a few minutes, guys, and you'll have Chris on the post game. Hopefully spamming those W's as well. But let's see what we get from Griffin Cannon against JP Spears. The lineup looks like a lineup tonight that we all like. Get it done today. This should be keep winning series, racking those series up. The Braves are falling apart. You got to take full advantage of that. And basically, it's us and the Phillies right now. And that's the team we got to worry about. And we got to keep it going, keep playing somewhat good baseball. The offense got to pick it up, guys. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Amazing Mets pregame show. Chris will get you on the post game later tomorrow, probably sometime around late midnight. Yeah, exactly. So enjoy the game, guys, and we'll see you next time on the pregame show. Let's go Mets, guys. Good night.
Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life.